Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to discuss the Hindu god Agni and unfold his many metaphysical motifs, starting with the simplest and graduating to the more complex. In Sanskrit, Agni literally means fire, and in this way, he is literally the element of fire. One can see that his name is at the root of the English word ignite and igneous. Now, as the element of fire, he represents all types of fire. For example, from the celestial point of view, he is primarily the sun. And in our terrestrial world, he is all types of fire, everything from lightning to the rainbow, all the way down to the simple fire in your home. From a metaphysical point of view, he is the fire within your mind. And from a spiritual point of view, he is emotional fire, or the fire that rages in your heart, which has a broad range from passion, rage, anger, drive, and desire, just to name a few, within the emotional spectrum. Now, even though his name literally means fire, his name also has many idiomatic meanings which were discussed by many ancient Hindu grammarians, one of which means first, or more properly extrapolated as first in the universe to arise. Take note that the words fire and first share the same etiology or root essence. And in this regard, one will see that Agni primarily correlates to the number 1, even though he is commonly attributed the number 7. As Surya, the sun god, whose sacred number is 1, Agni rides a chariot pulled by 7 red horses. And if you wish to understand this a little better, think of the Judeo-Christian God, who is one God but whose favorite number is 7. So, in this light, we can see why the Puranas tell us that Agni is the firstborn son of Brahma, and that he sprang from the mouth of the Virat Purusha, which is the cosmic man. And the Rig Veda states that the sun became visible when Agni was born. Now, the Maitreya Samhita tells us that Agni was born from the forehead of Prajapati, who was Brahma, and that with his birth came the creation of light. The same Samhita also states that Agni is the same as Brahma, who is the truth and the eye of the manifested universe. And in the Shadapala Brahmana, it states that Prajapati, or Brahma, is the father of Agni and also the son of Agni, because they both are an image of the one Atman, which is the soul. In other words, and this should sound familiar, the father and the son are one. Now, the Rig Veda also states that Agni is also many other deities. And here's a condensed list which highlights the characteristics of fire. Agni is Mithra in the morning and when he is kindled, and Varuna when he is born and in the evening. Agni is the twin of Indra and also is Indra when he enlightens the sky, into which both of them are called the dawn. And the Shadapala Brahmana states that Agni is Rudra, while the Rig Veda states that Agni has the same fierce nature as Rudra. Agni is also the same as Savitar, who is the sun, during the day, as he traverses the sky delivering light and energy to all living beings. And Agni is Savitar and is associated with his wife Savitri, who is identified as supreme pure consciousness. Similarly, Agni is also associated with the Hindu goddess Vak, who is both mind and the goddess of speech. And it should come as no surprise that she is also associated with Indra, who is Agni. And while there are many more associations, let's finish with his association with Sarama, who is the goddess of intuition and the forerunner of the dawn of truth in the human mind, who finds the truth which is lost. Sarama, as intuition, is a power of the truth, whose cows are the rays of the dawn of enlightenment, and who awakens man, who finds Agni standing in the supreme seat and goal. And if you don't know what the supreme seat is, the supreme seat is your heart, and the supreme goal is enlightenment, and thus true salvation and immortality. In other words, just as Agni is one with Brahma, so too you, as a physical man, become one with Agni, and thus one with Brahma, and for that matter, all the other deities as well. The truth is that he who has seen the Father has seen the Son, for he and the Father are one. Jesus Christ said it 2,000 years ago, and Horus and Osiris said it 1,000 years before the Christ. And in no different terms, the same truth is conveyed within the knowledge of Agni and Brahma. The truth is that a man who attains enlightenment is a Christ, a Greek word which means gold. That man becomes a golden child, a divine man, a hero of a certain order. You become Thoth, Osiris, Hermes Trismegistus, Horus, the firebird, the phoenix. You become a physical man who has attained the divine mind, and hence a mind-born son. You achieve a true pineal activation and become enlightened. You become the Brahman. You become light itself. And in order to help you further understand these concepts, let's switch to the zodiacal point of view and further explain the motifs of Agni. Now, our ancient ancestors worked out that there is a higher fractal of you in the heavens, commonly called the cosmic man. From this point of view, your head is ruled by Aries, the first zodiac sign. Now you can understand why the Vishnu Purana says that Agni sprang from the mouth of the cosmic man. And alternately, while the Maitrayana Samhita says that Agni was born from the forehead of Prajapati. Now, Aries is the first zodiacal sign. And take note that everything which we're about to discuss syncretizes with the attributes of Agni. Now, Aries begins on 21 March, which is the vernal equinox, directly due east, depicted by the red line. As the first sign, Aries' mode is cardinal fire, which is a perfect correlation with Agni, the god of fire. As the first zodiacal sign, Aries rules the dawn, which is one of the many epithets of Agni. And likewise, another of his names is the first in the universe to arise, which is a direct correlation to the sign of Aries, the first zodiacal age. And also notice that the words arise and Aries are anagrams of one another. Next, Aries is exalted by the sun, and Agni is the sun from the celestial point of view. One of Agni's many names is Vibhavasu, which means whose light is wealth. And in perfect correspondence, the Vedic sun god Bhaga is the god of wealth. Next, Aries is ruled by Mars, the angry planet, the planet of war. And these attributes correspond with Agni's characteristics of emotional fire, such as rage, anger, desire, etc. In fact, Agni's son, Kanda, is the god of war. Now, from a chromatic point of view, the ruler of Aries is the red planet Mars. And the English word red is cognate with Rudra, whose name means the red one, who is Agni, just as someone with ruddy or red complexion. And Rudra's sons are the Maruts, which is cognate with Mars. And the Maruts are the violent sons of Agni, who are armed with golden weapons such as lightning bolts, and who ride on golden chariots drawn by red horses. Other chromatic cognates are fire itself, which is usually depicted red, and the word cardinal connotates the color red, just as a cardinal in the Catholic Church wears red, or that a cardinal bird is red. And speaking of firebirds, red birds, the word phoenix means red. There is so much to explore simply from this chromatic point of view alone. However, this should suffice to show you that we are indeed oriented to the correct zodiacal sign regarding Agni. Now, the most familiar symbolic representation of Aries is that of a ram. So it shouldn't surprise you that Agni's Vamana or Vahana or spirit animal or spirit vehicle in Hinduism is the ram. However, Aries has been depicted differently by various cultures. For example, the Khmer people who built Angkor Wat depicted Aries as a rhinoceros. And likewise, Their modern-day descendants, being composed of the peoples of Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam, depict Agni's Vahana as a rhinoceros. Another ancient depiction of Aries that you may not be familiar with is that of a donkey. And you can be certain that this is the Savior's 1,000 colored donkey upon which the Jewish Messiah will arrive to redeem the world at the end of days. And in Christianity, this is the very same donkey that Jesus Christ rode through the East Gate or the Golden Gate of Jerusalem on the Sabbath before the Passover, all of which are located in Aries. Still another animal motif of Aries is of a bird. The origin myth found in many Indo-European cultures is one of a bird that brings fire from the gods to mankind. In some instances, this messenger bird brings an elixir of immortality from heaven to earth. In either case, the bird returns every day with sacrificial offerings for the gods, but sometimes the bird hides or disappears without a trace. Agni is molded in similar mythical themes, and in some hymns is even praised as the heavenly bird that flies. And in the Shadapatha Brahmana teaches you how to construct a fire altar in the shape of a bird out of 45-degree angles, which symbolizes the Purusha, or first principle of creation. Now, viewing Agni from the point of view of the firebird, one can see that he is one and the same as the mythical firebird called the phoenix, which was first mentioned by the Greek poet Hesiod in the 8th century BCE. One of Hesiod's poems says that a phoenix lived for 972 times the length of a long-lived human. Now, if we take a long-lived human at the age of 80 years, this equates a phoenix's life to 77,760 years, which is interesting because 77,760 divided by 3 equals 25,920 years, which is the exact length of a great year. And thus a phoenix's lifespan can be calculated as 3 great years in length, or 3 turns around the zodiac. However, Pliny the Elder states that the phoenix appeared at the end of each great year, which I agree with, but with the caveat that Pliny calculated a great year to be only 540 years in length, which is 1/48th of an actual great year. In other words, 540 times 48 equals 25,920 years. Now, this calculation is of particular significance when you know that in the Vishnu Purana, you'll find that Agni has 3 children and 45 grandchildren, for a total of 48 offspring, each of them having symbolic names of different aspects of fire. Now, here we can notice a mirroring fractal in that 45 plus 3 equals 48, while 45 minus 3 equals 42. And 42 degrees is the degree of visible light. In other words, the rainbow. And this numerical fractal continues forever. An example, 42 equals 7 times 6, which is a fractal of some lesser order of magnitude of the 77,760-year cycle. Or you can take 25,920 and divide by 45, which gives you 576, which is also some lesser order of magnitude of the number 77,760. And to be exact, 1/135th. And 135 is interesting because it is 135 divided by 3 equals 45. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have come full circle with 45 minus 3 or plus 3. In other words, the more you look at it, the more you will discover the forever unfolding pattern. And this is because we are beginning to unfold the harmonic sequence, which can be best thought of as the prime numerical pattern of light. So I encourage you to explore unfolding this pattern on your own, but for now, our focus is on the 42 degrees of visible light. So it is the dawn that brings visible light, which when refracted becomes the rainbow. Take note that in one version of the Vishnu Purana, Agni was born from the ritual fire of Dharma and his wife Vasubharya, which literally means daughter of light. And it is said that Agni as the sun is symbolized by the prime number 7 manifesting visibly as the rainbow. And in the oldest images of the phoenix, the firebird has a halo or nimbus having 7 rays, just like Helios, who's the Greek personification of the sun. And in Babylonian cosmology, the rainbow constellation, or asterisk, was located on the cusp of Pisces, bursting forth into Aries. Now, while the mythical firebird is called the phoenix, its terrestrial counterpart is the noble rooster. Pliny the Elder described the phoenix as having a crest of feathers on its head, and Ezekiel the dramatist directly compared the phoenix to a rooster. Of the terrestrial birds, arguably there is none better to represent Agni than the noble rooster, whose multicolored feathers resembles the rainbow or fire, and whose red comb gives it the appearance of a flaming mohawk. Or the Agni is over the voice, and it is the rooster that crows during the opening of the dawn. And one of Agni's many names is Dumaketu, which means one who is crowned with fire. Now, in Babylonian cosmology, you'll find the rooster at the foot of the true shepherd of Anu, who is Orion. Now, the Babylonian chart is not perfectly depicted here, and in fact is a mirrored image of our properly oriented zodiac wheel. So let's reorient this Babylonian star chart. Now, even though it is now properly oriented, it is still a bit disoriented, as Aries appears below the horizon, but this is irrelevant, for the point I wish for you to keep in mind is that the rooster is at the foot of Orion. The Egyptian zodiac at Dendera is very similar to the Babylonian zodiac, but notice that the Dendera zodiac features the Eye of Horus in place of the rainbow. This is because they are two different symbols that are expressing the very same thing or conveying the very same information. Whether Hindu, Babylonian, Zoroastrian, Syrian, Egyptian, Grecian, or any other number of cultures, what they were all telling you through their own cultural symbology was that the knowledge of God returns to the mind of men upon the commencement of the great year. So let's transition to the great year, because up until now we've mostly only explored the lower half of Agni, being found within the sign of Aries. Our knowledge of Agni is found within the great year alignment. Now, Agni is the guardian deity of the southeast direction, and he is typically found in the southeast corner of Hindu temples. Notice that in the zodiac, Aries is east, while Aquarius is in the direction of southeast. So what's going on here? Well, knowing that time is cyclic, you'll find that while Aries begins the solar year, it is Aquarius that begins the 25,920 year long great year. When you turn the wheels within wheels to the proper alignment, you get the alignment of the great year over the solar year. Perhaps it will help you to think of it in the form of a fraction, with the symbol for Aquarius over the symbol of Aries. Or you can depict this fraction in word form. This word form is interesting because you can clearly see that the word Aquarius is a portmanteau of the words aqua and Aries. You can also depict it in its numerical relationship as Aquarius, the 11th sign, over Aries, the first sign. In this relational form, you can clearly see Agni's affinity with the number 1. Now, isn't it interesting to know that the Vedas tell you that Agni's parents were two kindling fire sticks whose loving action created him? And in the Asian culture, they have a daily reminder of this sacred knowledge in the form of chopsticks, which were originally used to stir the cooking fire and gradually became used as the preferred eating utensils. Ladies and gentlemen, it amazes me that the knowledge of God is hiding in plain sight, literally right in the palm of your very hand. Now, each zodiac sign has an ancient motto, and the motto of Aquarius is, I know. And we find Agni in the Vedic hymns being praised as he who knows all generations. In the Upanishads, Agni represents all transformative knowledge and energy that consumes and dispels the state of darkness. Symbolically, Agni represents the inner natural will to aspire for the highest knowledge, and there is no higher knowledge than to know God. Agni is also addressed as Jadavedasam, meaning the one who knows all things that are born, created, or produced. And he is also known as the essence of the knowledge of existence. And in this capacity removes nations and destroys ignorance and all delusions, that being the material world. So here, let's add one more fractal form of information, and that would be in the form of astrological motifs, in which we get I know over I am. Now put that between your chopsticks and chew on that tasty morsel of mental food. So, when does the fourth Agni return? Well, if you've understood what I've shown you so far, then you'll understand that this question is the very same as asking, when does the Christ return? When does Kalki return? When does Maitreya return? When does the Seoshant return? When does the Phoenix return? When does the sign of the rainbow return? When is the circle squared? In other words, if you drop the illusion of a personification of God, then you'll know that God is light. And the root question that should be asked is, when does the knowledge of God return? Well, many ancient cultures made their predictions, as you can see. But what is most profound is that within a 25,920-year cycle, all of these cultures had an accuracy rate of 99.999%. Now, Aquarius is the sign of the water bearer, and one of Agni's many names is Vaisvanara, which means the man of the world. And it is Agni who carries the nectar pot and spoon. In ancient Buddhism, he is Agi, the element of heart and fire. And traveling far to the west, we find him center stage as Aki, the water drawer, father of Sargon of Akkad, and founder of the Akkadian Empire. In Hinduism, we get to find out what is in the Aquarian bucket, and it turns out to be butter, as one of Agni's names is Havyavahana, which means one who carries the sacrificial butter. And you can bet that this golden metaphysical butter is the same as Greek ambrosia, the medieval elixir of life, Amrita, the nectar of immortality, and the Chinese nectar pill, all being versions of the same food of the gods. And Aquarius is his house is the zenith of Orion, whereas the Babylonians knew him the true shepherd of Anu, along with his rooster. The constellation was sacred to Papshakal and Ninshubur, both of whom served as messengers to the gods. Mercury is exalted in Aquarius, and he is the penultimate messenger of the gods. From the planetary point of view, he is the Greek Hermes, whose sacred animal is the rooster. The Roman Mercury, the Egyptian Thoth, who is anthropomorphized as the ibis. The Buddha, the Sumerian Nabu, the Norse Odin or Woden, the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, the rainbow serpent, and so many more. Mercury rules Wednesday, or Woden's Day, which is symbolic of the wedding or sacred marriage. In Hinduism, the most important ritual during a wedding is performed around Agni, where the fire is circled 7 times, with Agni being the witness to the vows made to one another. The Kanvasatpatha Brahmanan calls Agni wisdom, and in some Puranic texts his sister is intelligence. Agni is symbolic for the mind, swiftest among all those that fly. And one of his many names is Vayu, which means traveling with wind. In the Vedas, Agni is the messenger between the gods and humans. Just as Job 38:36 says, tell me, who has put wisdom in the ibis? Who has given understanding to the rooster? See, ladies and gentlemen, from the point of view of light, Brahma is all light and all energy, while Agni is the first manifestation of that light and energy. He and the Father are one, and Brahma, as Agni, can be further fractally unfolded, revealing a fourfold form of light that exists within his zodiacal alignment. Think of Mars, the ruler of Aries, as the manifestation of emotional light, the Sun, exalted in Aries, as the manifestation of physical light, Mercury, exalted in Aquarius, as the manifestation of mental light. And if you rub the two sticks together between your ears really hard, you just may kindle the metaphysical flame that bursts forth as a pineal activation, whereupon you get to taste that golden sacrificial butter and attain true enlightenment.